but actually preparing those that are getting out of prison, a successful transition, getting them right on the right path,
Yeah.
getting the things that they need, and pointing them to the right resources. Like when you get out, the first things you really need is you're gonna need a birth certificate, you're gonna need social security card, you're gonna need an ID. I mean, you can't really do anything too much without having them three things. I mean, when you
Right.
go look for a job, you gotta have, the two forms of ID. Get any kind of medical,
Yep.
insurance. You're gonna need
Right.
your IDs, your information. So we focus on that. Um, you can get them things while you're incarcerated,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't have people on the outside that they can really count on
The
to get them
resources to
things
do
sent in,
it.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go through your caseworker and get them, but it
Yeah.
costs. Some people don't have the money
Yeah.
to pay for that as well. Like I think the birth certificate may be like $30.
Yeah, it depends on what state.
Yeah, it depends on what
Here
state.
in Missouri, I think I just had to get a duplicate one for my son a couple years back because he lost track of his when he transitioned out of college. I want to say they're like $15 or $20 here in Missouri.
Okay.
In some places,
Right.
yeah, it
Yeah.
ranges anywhere from $20 to $40 sometimes.
Yeah.
And then if you have to mail off to another state to get it, they all have their different requirements of what they need from you.
And so that's part of it. That's one part of it. We also I have an outline and almost a course basically. We also figure out what are your strengths and weaknesses as far as being released. Housing, what is your housing looking like? Do you have a housing to go, not just having a house to go to, but do you have a healthy housing to go to?
Right.
I mean, if you're going into a house where it's a lot of it's really unhealthy, then it's
is it a support system for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Or is it just a place to lay your head until you figure something else out?
And so we figure out that transportation, like in the bigger cities you have the busing system.
Yeah.
So if you're getting out and you're going to a transitional house or halfway house, they'll supply you with the bus tickets until you get a job, and then you'll have to buy your own. Right. So we're looking at transportation. What does your transportation look like? Job skills and training. What type of job skills and training are you strong in this area, or are you weak in this area?
Well, and not just job skills, but these days, what they call soft skills are even just as much, or if not more important to employers, because an employer says, I can teach somebody how to make those widgets, right? If they're trainable, I can teach them how to make those widgets. What's harder is for an employer to teach an employee to be there every day, to show up on time, to have a good attitude, to be a team player, those kind of soft skills, what they call them. Right. And those are harder to teach because a lot of people weren't brought up to have that kind of mindset of, I have a responsibility to get up and go to work every day, or I have an obligation to try to do my best, despite I don't like that person I have to work next to, or despite, I don't like how this place smells, or whatever the case may be. Right. You do what you got to do to get that paycheck, right? So
exactly.
And,
so
and
so you're looking at
part,
soft skills that'll play a major role in it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we do communication skills.
Yeah.
Also, not just as job skills, as in do you have some type of trade or whatever, but also aligned with resumes, how to carry yourself in interviews.
Yeah.
Some people be locked up so long they don't have technology skills as well.
Right. Yeah, because so many application processes are online now.
Exactly.
And they don't understand how to navigate that whole world of online and uploading your resume and this and that. It's
right.
And in my years of doing what I did, I also saw that it's not just people that have been incarcerated a lot of time, but in this rural area that we live in, a lot of people just don't have internet access. So they're not computer literate for a number of reasons. So it's not based necessarily on that incarceration. That's a common problem, at least that I saw around here.
All right. Looks like we got Linda is in the building. How you doing, Linda?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're talking about some of the challenges that inmates face when returning home out of prison. You know, identifying their strengths and their weaknesses. You know,
Okay.
we was talking about technology skills. You know, getting out of prison, being able to type up a resume, being able to know how to use a computer, whether it's Windows, whether it's Outlook, or, you know, just a lot of things that you really need to know, because like you said a while ago, Robin, filling out most of your applications is not physical no more. You have to go online and fill out the application, and job searches. It's not like back in the day you looking in the paper for the, for the jobs.
Yeah,
like all your jobs.
I picked up a newspaper the other day because of an article in it that I wanted to keep, and I just kind of flipped back into the help wanted just to see, you know, there was one job ad in the paper, you know, but if you go online, if you go to Indeed.com, there's like hundreds of jobs listed.
Hundreds of jobs,
for the zip code of Sedalia. So yeah, it's definitely not what it used to be.
And then another thing with the jobs is that I'll talk about a lot is I have a list of felon friendly jobs, but there's a twist to that. The twist is jobs hire felons, but your felony has to be within so many years.
Right. Or a certain kind of felony, because I ran into that too. You know, working for a staffing company, we had certain clients that were okay with felonies as long as they were just the bad checks or the unpaid child support. They didn't want these kind of felonies, and or as long as they weren't within the last 5 years, 7 years, whatever their time frame was.
So it's a must that with the companies that you must know what is the criteria. Some companies don't care. You get out, you know, they'll hire you. Probably most likely right now, a lot of people that's getting out of prison,
they have definitely
will get hired.
I would say in the last 3 years, from talking with HR professionals, especially when we have our monthly lunch meetings, the last 3 years, they have definitely loosened up their criteria. They're not necessarily requiring a college degree like they used to. Some places aren't even requiring a high school diploma like they used to. They're easing up on the criminal background cutoff. You know, they used to say no felons. Well, now we'll take some felons. Or if they used to take some felons, now they'll take any felon. And then job experience, they're loosening up on that because, again, if you're trainable, they can teach you. And honestly, we even had a couple clients that said, you know, we want you to drug test. And if they test positive for THC, we're okay with that. You know, so they're understanding that the candidate pool isn't what it used to be.
Right.
And so they're going to have to loosen up some of that criteria. And you know what? They're going to get good employees because there are good ones out there. And you got to look beyond that label. One example is I had a guy apply that had a felony, and when instead of just seeing, oh, it was a felony kidnapping, right? So instead of just saying, oh, felony kidnap, we're not going to go there. I talked to him about it. I'm like, talk to me about this. What went on? You know, and he was young when it happened. And him and a buddy were out drinking somewhere, and they got ready to go home, and he was taking the buddy home, and the buddy was drunk enough that they got into some verbal argument, and the buddy says, let me out of the car right here, right now. And they were like on some open road somewhere. You know, he wasn't going to just dump them on the side of the road. So he took them on into town, and anyway, the buddy was upset about it and ended up calling the police saying, while they're in the car, hey, this guy has me in his car, won't let me out. Press charges. He ended up getting a kidnapping charge for that. It was just like the craziest thing. But if you don't take the time to listen and ask those questions, then you're going to write that person off. So I hired him. He did a great job. He got promoted to a lead position. He's now a supervisor at one of the manufacturing plants, and I'm so proud of him.
Wonderful.
And, it's just stories like that makes me hopeful that people truly do want to do the right thing. But when you've been told your whole life sometimes, or at least your teen years or your young adult years, that you're never going to amount to much, and you can't do anything right, and things like that, it just it breaks you down. And those people don't have the confidence in themselves to really shine. And when you give them that chance, or that second chance, or that third chance, that they're eventually going to shine. They just need to know that somebody believes in them,
right,
and isn't going to give up and turn their back on them just because they screwed up. So,
true indeed. And we also talk about is getting the inmate to push themselves, challenging their beliefs. I mean, when you get out of me personally, I mean, Alinda, I'm gonna give you a brief. I'm gonna give you my story in probably within 1 minute, 2 minutes. So this is my story. This is why this is passionate to me. I grew up in a impoverished neighborhood. Mom was on drugs. Father wasn't nowhere around. I learned how to hustle at an early age, and I adapted this mindset that I was a product of my environment. So this mindset carried me, and I kept finding myself in juvenile detentions, and I ended up being in foster home because I could play basketball. But then basketball skills took me to college, but I still had the same mindset that I was a product of my environment. So while in college, I wasn't living a life that your average student athlete should be living. I was selling drugs, I was robbing, I was fighting. I was just in a whole bunch of other stuff that had nothing to do with school or basketball. I made it through 4 years of college from basketball, didn't graduate. As soon as basketball season was over my senior year, I was done. I was done with school. So I moved back home, and I was right back in the mix, selling drugs. Caught my first drug case. I got probation. Got out on probation within probably 2-3 months. I caught another drug case and gun charge. I got sentenced to 7 years and a 12-year sentence running consecutively, meaning I had to do the 7-year first. When I was done with that, I had to turn around and start the 12.
Wow.
Had 19 years going into the Missouri Department of Corrections. So probably about my fourth year in the Missouri Department of Corrections, a Senate bill was passed to cut the mandatory sentence on drug cases in half. So I was up for immediate parole hearing. Went to parole hearing, had to be the fastest parole hearing in history. They told me this, I'll never forget this. They said, Mr. Sims, you are part of the problem. You got a few more years with us. What do you think about residential institutional behavior and drug treatment program? I said, yeah, I'd take it, because I knew if I completed the program, I'd get out earlier than what my release date would be.
right.
So I got out. But as the whole time I was in prison, the first time, I didn't do nothing. Didn't study. I was ready to be out, but I wasn't prepared. People say, man, I'm ready to get out. Like, I was ready. Yeah, everybody's ready to get out of jail, but I wasn't prepared ready. So when I got out, I had the same mindset, same mentality, went to the same neighborhood, hung around the same people, start selling the same drug. Within 2 years of me getting out of prison, I found myself right back in the county jail fighting another drug case. I beat that drug case on the technicality. I got out, went right back doing the same thing. Had about a good 2-3 year run, not getting locked up, selling drugs. Everything's looking good street-wise, money-wise. The federal government comes and picks me up, me and 31 other people. Conspiracy to distribute 25 keys of cocaine and gang activity charges. So I was sitting there, and they handed me a piece of paper with my charges on it. I wasn't tripping off my charges. What I was tripping off of was it had my name versus the United States of America. So I was like, oh, hold up. Like this is for real. This ain't the playing state prison. This the federal government.
Right.
And so I had asked myself, why do I keep finding myself in these situations? And I told myself I was the first, not the only, but the first victim of my own actions. So I just started studying myself, started reading different type of books. I wasn't reading the urban novels. I started reading how to start businesses, business law, knowledge of self, see the self, just a lot of different self-help books. Goal Setting by Brian Tracy, Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav, just a whole bunch of different books that I normally wouldn't read. And I started educating myself, and I started making goals, setting plans of what I wanted my life to be like once I got out of federal prison. So when I walked out of federal prison, all I had to my name, I have no money. I had 4 legal folders full of goals, ideas, plans, and what I was going to do. And from that day I walked out, I went to the halfway house, and I used up all day paper in the computer. I took a life coaching course, so I had to print out my homework and everything. So I used up all day paper, ended up getting a life coaching diploma, kept continuing my education, then became a master certified empowerment life coach. Was writing, started typing up books, and stuck to the blueprint. And I never looked back since then. I started my own company, Visionary Hustle LLC, which was a coaching company. I changed it to a reentry coach. I do reentry coaching, but I also do one-on-one life coaching as far as goal setting and stuff like that. I call it's correlates with my story. I call it inmate coaching, meaning that inmate is an acronym for being impacted negatively, mentally. It takes energy from you, whether person, place, situation, or thing. If that happens to you, if you're impacted negatively, mentally, takes energy from you, you're an inmate to that situation, that mindset, that person, that place, or whatever is holding you back. So I coach people on how to get out of their own way, basically.
Yeah, and you don't have to be incarcerated
to be in prison.
Within your own life.
Yeah, that's why I tell people it's more people that are in prison there's more people in the world that are in prison than there is people that are physically incarcerated.
Right.
And so
how many years since you've been out?
I'm going on my 3rd, but actually it's just been 3 years, August the 4th, 3 years.
Right.
And so what I did was I kept the coaching part, and I started the nonprofit to help rebuild the neighborhood back at home that I helped destroy when I was in the streets, bringing the poverty down. That's why I came up with the North Side organization, reinventing the honor. I want to bring the honor back through the value of we're doing community events. We want to do real estate. We want to have have like a educational center for the youth, places when people get out of prison that they can go get help, get classes, resources. That's why I introduced the felon reentry education. I call it the free program, to where felons is getting out of prison. I know what you're facing because I've been there. Right. And I want to connect with other agencies that are, that have the resources, whether it's housing, transportation, employment skills, help you get a job, and so that's all. So that's why I started the nonprofit for really many different purposes, but it was going to bring the value back in a place that I took the value from. And so that's what I do.
So how are you connecting with those agencies that provide the services that will help the people that you're working with?
And so I talk to probation and parole a lot. It's crazy. And that's what I was just talking about, challenging your beliefs, because I once had the belief that the probation and parole officers, they was out to get me, and stuff like that. But
when they're doing their job, it probably
they're
seems
doing
like
their job. Yeah, it's something like that. So now I talk to a lot of and engage in conversation with a lot of people in the probation and parole officers, not just in Sedalia, but St. Joe, around Missouri. And we kind of basically point each other in different directions. Sometimes, you know, they want me to come in and speak to some of the inmates that just coming home. I had, like I said, I built a course around felon reentry education. You know, a lot of with me actually being in them shoes, I know exactly, you know, hands-on. It's kind of like you can have a college degree, but if I did the hands-on, I most likely got more of the work experience by the time you come to the work.
Life experience cannot be reproduced in a classroom.
Right.
You can have 6 degrees. I'm not impressed by that, except maybe you got dedication and work ethic to complete the courses. That says something, but to actually be able to do certain types of jobs, that life experience is going to go a long way.
Right. And so what I do is I don't just focus on the resources. I also focus on the individual as well.
Exactly.
Because I had to sit back and make a change and be, you know what I'm saying, actually be wanting a better situation. I mean, because I can give you all the resources that you want, but if you're not ready, you're not prepared, if you don't want it, then it doesn't mean nothing. So I focus on the individual. Yeah, that's the hardest thing. When
can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves.
Don't want to help themselves, right?
Way more than once, and it's frustrating because you can see the potential in them, and you want to believe in them, but they're just not ready for whatever reason to believe in themselves and move forward in a positive way to make their life better.
And
so
it takes a lot. I mean, it took me 6 or 7 chances before it hit me and say, like, man, what are you really doing? Like, you got to do something different, or you're going to be 50, 40, 50, 60 years old. I'll probably be in prison for the rest of my life. You know, so that's one thing I focus on, not just the focusing on the resource part, but focusing on the individual. It's something that got you standing in your own way. So before we even go and help you with the jobs and stuff like this, we really need to figure out you know,
what's going on
here.
Because if they don't have this right, no job in the world is going to help them, because exactly. So it's because it's going to be, it's not an easy road. I mean, you can get out, but if you ain't changed and you got a job and you're not getting paid that well, and child support coming out your check, and then you got to pay, like in Missouri, you got to pay $30 a month to be on parole, and you know, you got these certain fees and fines, and by the time you get your check and child support, you might still have unpaid court fees from whatever, and restitution and
so you go through all that, and after you get paid, you might have $20 left on your check, and you don't work 40 hours a week at $12, $13 an hour, and you end up with $20 to $40. Then that triggers it triggers you to be like, man, forget it. I know I've been there. Like, nah, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna be working on 40 hours and only bring home $100 after.
And it's easier to relapse into a life that's going to make you more money.
And there's where recidivism kicks in, because I mean, when we think of recidivism, we look at it as people who get out of prison, they reoffend and go back. But one of the definitions of recidivism is a tendency to relapse to a previous condition or mode behavior. And there's where the relapse starts. It doesn't start when you go back. It starts when you relapse to that previous condition or mode behavior. So if I'm doing all this work, and then after everybody get their money, and I don't have nothing but $100 out of 40-hour week check, and I'm working in a factory, making $13 an hour, and this is all I come, I'm gonna tend to be like, forget this, and I'm gonna start thinking of other ways I can get money. And 99% of the time, I'm gonna go back to ways I was getting money before, whether it was selling drugs, whether it was robbing, or whatever it was doing. I'm gonna go back to that, and there's where the recidivism starts. And sometimes it's that way because a lot of people, what I know for a fact, is they can do better in prison than they do out here.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people thrive on the structure that it gives them.
Yeah.
You know, ever since I've been on this Zoom call with you, Kardell, something keeps popping into my head based on certain things that you have said. And although I have worked with helping people get that second and third chance with work, employment, I also, through my involvement with the chamber, serve on the Military Affairs Committee and the Base Community Council for White Men, which is the Air National Guard and the Air Force. And so I've had some of these same conversations with people who have gotten out of the military, and so they endure some of the same problems. I've had this structured lifestyle for years and years. I've had people tell me what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And now I get out of the military and I can't readjust to civilian life. I've done one thing in the military all these years, and now I come out and I can't take those skills, and I don't know how to adapt them from civilian life.
Right.
I've counted on the military for my shelter and food and my life, and now I have to figure that out for myself. So there's a lot of parallels there, even though they're on different planes of life, but having some of the same issues, not knowing how to fill out a job application, not knowing how to interview for a job, not knowing how to dress for a job. They had their military uniform, and they had their civilian clothes, and then they had their dress, what they call dress uniform for special occasions in the military. But to dress for a job interview, what does that look like when you haven't had to do it for 10, 15, 20 years, right? And they lose their sense of identity, right? So when you've got someone in an inner city situation where the gang that they got caught up in was their family, their support system, their ride or die. And when you have a young man go into the military because maybe he has no other choices in life at that point, and he's been in there for 15 or 20 years, that military unit, no matter what branch of the military they're in, that military unit is their family, their support system, their ride or die. And so it's a lot of similarities, but society views them totally different, right?
Right.
Because of the choices. So the choices they made that put them either in the military or it caused them to be incarcerated. So it was just interesting, just certain things you said, like when they come out of prison, do they have somewhere to go? Do they have a support system? There's people in the military that have that same struggle. Like, I haven't been close to my family in years, and I don't know where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do, and that type of thing. So it's interesting. I had never thought about it in that way, but listening to you talk, that kept popping in my head. So
yeah, it's a lot of similarities. I mean, even on the homeless aspect,
yeah,
majority of your homeless people are veterans.
yes,
And I would probably say maybe not the next set of people that leads that category after the veterans, but probably at least the second or third would be people that's getting out of prison.
yeah,
That's been in prison, getting out, and they don't have anywhere. And even if they go to a transitional home, you only can be there. So once your time is up,
right.
they don't care if you
Right.
got a place to go or not. You have to come up out of here. So that's crazy as well. My speaker coach, he did 21 years in the Marine. He retired 21 years in the Marine. And he always say, man, when I listen to your story, it's kind of like we have the same story, but you went to prison, I went to military, and the things that you endure and the things that I endure are similar.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got people that's
both could have PTSD for different reasons.
That's what I was about to say, because you have people that's been to prison that has PTSD, and on top of that, mental health issues. And this is another thing that we address in the felon reentry education as well. We connect you with a licensed person that can help you with your mental health issues, because that's very important. At least 25% of the people that are incarcerated have a mental health illness, And if you've been in certain prisons, like man, some of the prisons I've been in, it's crazy. Like when you just turn the corner and you see somebody getting stabbed up, or like every week, a certain day, new people come in, you can expect somebody's getting stabbed, or they getting chased out. They might be running out the wing with their head bust. There's a lot of different stuff that you see that you be like, man, this is not normal. But it's an environment, and so you get accustomed to an environment. Right. It's a way of life, and it's just like the military. Like, this is a way of life, and so it's a lot of similarities between people in the military and people in the prisons. And even in the military, you get confined to this certain area, and you don't know where you're gonna go next. And that's like prison. You might be in this prison, and at any given moment, they might call your number, bunk and junk. You finna get shipped here. Yep. And so it's a lot of similarities to that. And with the way that with the program, with the felon reentry. So what I'm doing now with the Zoom meetings is hopefully it grows and grows, and we have people from all over that comes in. So because I have a lot of inmates hit me up on my Instagram and stuff like that, because they follow me and they see my story and they just ask for advice. So I'm able to build a large community and have people from all over. So if I have somebody just getting out of him on Instagram, say, hey man, I'm from Chicago. Where can I go to find these resources? They didn't let me know none of this in prison. I can say, hey, I know this, call this guy, or get in touch with this guy right here. He's in Chicago. His name is Joseph Green. He's the CSAC in the West Side of Chicago. He help you find all the resources that you need, and that's the whole goal with this felon reentry education. And then not only that we can bounce ideas off each other and be able to use. And then for those who might have family members incarcerated and are about to come home, what ways can they be able to help them and make the transition more smoother for them on their way home? Because at the end of the day, I want them to be successful. And my definition of success is not just getting out and completing your probation and parole. It's getting out and never going back. Mm-hmm. And that takes a mindset shift. Like you have to really, it's a challenge. It's not going to be easy. I mean, I had so many doors slammed in my face when I first got out. It was ridiculous, but I really wasn't too concerned with it. I really wasn't too concerned with it because I had a plan. I had a plan. I knew I was going to be doing what I'm doing right now before I even got out of prison.
You envisioned it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a vision. I actually had a vision board. Like in my prison cell, everybody in their prison cell has a picture board. You got your pictures of your family. Mm-hmm. I didn't put none of that stuff up. I made my picture board a vision board. And that's what I did. I had a vision board. I woke up, looked at it every day, and to where it was embedded in me. And every day I worked towards how I was going to build and get to that vision that I had up there. And so, but like I said, success to me, it's completing probation and parole, federal probation. But at the end of the day, it's never going back, and also living a lifestyle that's comfortable. I don't have to worry about the police. As far as me getting arrested for doing something illegal or me in the street game, stuff like that, I don't have to be too much concerned with that. I don't really have to worry too much or get nervous when a police car gets behind me, as far as I got drugs in the car, I got a gun, and that nature. That's success to me. But the biggest one is never going back to prison, and helping those is getting out of prison to design themselves a mindset and a life that they never go back as well. And then, like, I also go speak to the youth at youth builds and stuff like that and talk to them about not becoming a prison number, because that's the only way it's going to keep going. I mean, people get out and they go back in recidivism, but the money comes from new numbers. And so I have a no new numbers campaign where I go speak to the youth and teach them. And it's the same thing. It's the same type of program. Even with the offenders getting out, I I make them challenge their beliefs.
Right.
You know, I make them prioritize what they value. You know, when I was in the streets, I valued stuff that was in the streets. You know, drugs, guns, the whole criminal lifestyle. That's what I value. I had values, but my values matched what I valued. So yeah, I have values of commitment, dedication, and loyalty, but I use these values towards the wrong stuff because of what I value. So in return, I really didn't have no value to offer for myself if you wasn't in the street game. Anything outside of the streets, I had no value to offer to you. So when I tell them you have to prioritize what you value. Like I have what I value. What I value now is different. I value God, myself, family, you know, freedom. And so I wouldn't put myself in any situation that's going to jeopardize any of that. And I still have the same values, but they're in line. What I value is different. So now I'm able to be of value. So even with the youth I go talk to, I see what do you value and how you prioritize that. And then on top of that, you know, what are your expectations of self? You know, a lot of times, even with me, I didn't have expectations for myself. In the streets, my only expectation was to get up, go sell some drugs, hang on the corner all day, every day. Like I didn't expect nothing else out of that. So everything that I was getting is what I expected. I expected go to prison. I expected certain things to happen in the streets that happen, stuff like that. So what do you expect? So that's why I say the biggest thing is getting that person to challenge themselves, even your beliefs. Like a lot of people come from the environment I come from, they say, man, I'm a product of my environment. And that's your belief. That don't mean that it's the truth. You know, that's just what you believe. Belief is perhaps what we think is the truth. Don't mean that it is, doesn't hold any weight or anything. But if you take a look around, this is what I had to do. I had to take a look around at people that grew up in the same environment that I grew up in. They never sold drugs. I know people that didn't have no parent. Their mother died, father wasn't around. They didn't have no parents, grandparents raised them. They grew up in the same type of environment I did, or their mom was on drugs or whatever. And they never sold a drug. They never committed no crime, never got in the street life. They went to school, educated themselves, worked hard, made their way up out that environment. So they necessarily wasn't a product of their environment. And so I realized that I wasn't a product of our environment if I applied the right attitude, if I educated myself, if I worked hard, and I had a vision. And so that's what I knew to be the truth, and that's what I had faith in. So I had to change that belief and challenge that belief that I was a product of my environment and turn it into faith, knowing that I wasn't. And so that's another thing about when dealing with people when it's in prison, we got certain beliefs or been in the criminal lifestyle, or even growing up in that type of environment, we hold certain beliefs that either was passed down to us or, you know, just that we came up with on our own, and they hold us back. And so yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, as you're speaking, and I'm sorry, I'm driving. I'm on my way to pick up my daughter. One of the things that I have found to be true I think this will apply to anyone, whether you're incarcerated or you're the CEO of a bank. Years ago, I used to work for Montgomery Ward. This was probably way before you were born.
I remember Montgomery Ward.
Right. And they used to have, I worked in their telemarketing. They had a telemarketing department.
I used to have a Montgomery Ward card, actually, back in my
Oh, wow, now.
Yeah, dealers, yeah, all the stuff.
So one of the things that they taught us in telemarketing was this. The first lesson that they taught us was when you call and you're having a conversation with a potential client to sell them a product, you've got to maintain control of the conversation. And the best way to maintain control and to close that sale is to remember these few little words. Go back to the point of interruption. So when I was on the phone with them talking, And before I got through, got to my spiel, if they were to ask me a question, I would answer the question, but wherever they interrupted me in my script, I went back to that point.
Right.
And sometimes when I went back, I was able to reiterate the question, the answer to the question. And in life, a lot of people don't realize you have to go back to the point of that interruption that was in your life, because you were not born that way. And yes, you may have lived in a jacked up neighborhood, and you may have had some jacked up parents and some jacked up family members and some jacked up friends. However, if you take the time, or if someone recognizes the gift that is in you, and they take the time to talk to you, because that's what a good mentor does. They will take you back to that point of interruption, and especially a great psychologist and a great psychiatrist, because you got to go back to that point of interruption in your life that caused you so much pain that it put you on a different road, which caused you to make some dumb decisions, which led you into the place where you are now. A few years ago, quite by coincidence, ended up meeting a young man who was incarcerated for murder. And I befriended him. You want somebody to write? Okay, I'm gonna write, I'll talk to you. And in talking with this young man, I found out that some of the things that he had dealt with, some of the things that he had experienced as a child were some of the same things I experienced, which was sexual molestation, of being abused by a parent. And as I began to talk to him, he started to cry, and he wanted to shut down, but I kept pushing the issue. And I was like, look, you got to get this out, because even though you're incarcerated, you may be behind bars, but you can free your mind. And once your mind is free, there is nothing that you cannot accomplish and do. So as a result of that, I've been, speaking with him for a few years now. Just about a month ago, I went up before the Virginia Parole Board on his behalf. So now we're waiting for a decision, for them to release him. But it's so important, and I will tell any family member, and this was something I didn't know because my brother was incarcerated, and I didn't know what he had. I knew what he went through after he got out, but I did not know the importance of me talking with him and getting him to, okay, we need to engage, and we need to really go back to the point of interruption in your life that put you on this road, so where you ultimately made the decision that caused you to go to prison. So I really think that when with family members, loved ones, friends, if they have anyone that's incarcerated, it is really important, especially if the people are yet in jail, in prison, push that envelope and take them back to the point of interruption. Because once you reach that point of interruption in your life, the fear that you had has no more power over you. And you will find that I was scared of this. This is nothing.
Right.
I mean, and how many of us, I know for myself, when I go for a job interview, I have my bachelor's, I have my master's, but when I'm sitting across from an executive, I'm a bowl of fluff, especially when they begin to ask certain questions. But I have to rein it in, and then once I successfully answer that one question that they asked me in a truthful manner, the realization always hit me, girl, this wasn't nothing. And then I begin to relax. I cross my legs. I'm like, let's do this. And don't let them ask me, well, how much money you want to make. I always give them the same answer. I am confident that you will not lowball me and that you will offer me a fair salary based on my experience and my education. It's back in your court. Don't play with me.
Oh, Alinda, I love that. Go back to the point of interruption. I wrote it down. That is
I did too.
So profound.
It is.
And it's so applicable. And you know, sometimes that interruption in your life is a trauma that you can never get over. You learn to deal with it and cope with it, but you never get over it. And then that ties back, Kardell, to what we were talking about earlier with the mental health issues, that a lot of mental health issues come about because of trauma someone experienced as a child. So I'm a mental health advocate, and I serve on the board for DEFEAT, which is a mental health awareness and suicide prevention group here in Pettis County. So I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of, trainings and trying to educate myself more. I didn't go to school for it or anything like that, but learning through life experience and talking to people and things like that, that childhood trauma really affects you the rest of your life, and
it does, and
can trigger mental health issues, which in turn trigger addiction issues, whether it's alcohol or drugs. Can trigger that PTSD reaction, the anger, the non-trusting, the lack of self-esteem, all those things can be tied back to that. But based on what Alinda was saying, if you go back to that point and say, okay, let's not let that affect your life, let's deal with it and deal with it and figure out how to use it for a source of strength. Because tying that, going back to what you were saying, Kardell, you have two individuals that come from the same environment, and one was a product of their environment and maybe the other one isn't. Then was it truly the environment, or was it the choices each of them made while growing up in that environment? So that's good stuff. Sharing that. No, that's great.
I like that point of interruption. That was very powerful. I really do like that. I mean, because it made me think about, I think my point of interruption was the moment when I found out that my mom was on drugs real bad. Mm-hmm. And then from that point on, it seemed like everything, like all happiness just went out the door. And all the way until I really got to federal prison, I realized there's some other things as far as, with me and greatness and all that. I think that probably was my point of interruption. I had to go back and really address that issue. Like, okay, that's over and done with. Your mom is 20-something, almost 30 years clean now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so now this, you can't continue to use that as your excuse,
And do you have a relationship with her now?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, we have a powerful relationship, and she's the only one that been there every time I went to prison. You know what I'm saying? So I just had to quit using that as an excuse. And I remember when I was in the behavior institution behavior and drug program inside of prison. It was one of the caseworkers. We had to do a timeline of our story, and I used to use the excuse that the reason why I went to foster home was because my mom was on drugs, and she told me, she's like, no, that's not the reason why you went. The reason why you got put in the foster home because of the criminal act that you committed. Not, you got to quit trying to put this on your mother, and that was my point of interruption.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm gonna have to use that.
I'm gonna use that too, Linda. Don't make us pay the royalty fee for you.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You know what? I was just thinking. I think what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and get some T-shirts. Go back to the point of interruption.
Interruption. Yeah. I think that'd be powerful because regardless of whether you went to prison or not or whatever, if you can let something to hold you back right now, and it's something like I say, like you're an inmate or something, It has to do with a point of interruption somewhere.
Right.
And you need to go back in there and figure that out.
Yeah.
And let that go, because that might just be what's holding you an inmate. And that one part where go ahead.
No, I was just saying, for me, a few years ago, okay, I'm going to be a little graphic, but we all grown people, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. A few years ago, I woke up and I had blood in my underwear. Now, I done had babies and I done went through menopause. I'm not supposed to be having a menstrual now. I done went through all of this.
Right.
But as it turned out, I ended up going to the doctor. And I was able to get to all of the doctors I needed to that day without an appointment.
Oh, wow.
And as it turned out, when they did the internal exam, the internal sonogram, the lady was like, "Oh, good God!" And my ovaries, tumors, just tumors.
Oh,
like
wow.
pick a tumor.
Oh, wow.
And so I didn't get upset, but what I thought about was my mother, because my mother died of ovarian cancer.
Oh, gosh.
So for me, and then I have, other cancers in my family, that run rapid in the family. Mm-hmm. So for me, it would have been easy to be upset, crying, having a moment, feeling sorry for myself, et cetera, et cetera. But what I did was I was like, you know what? If you think you're getting ready to take me out like this, you got another thought coming, dog. It's on. It's on.
Yeah.
And so I fought. And I had the surgeries. They did the biopsies. Everything came out well, and it was benign. But then the next year, they found a lump under one arm. Then they found a lump on my breast. And then just recently, a few months back, they found some more tumors. So I was just like, now you're going to have to come better than this, because I told you I'm not getting ready to die. Now, I can't be bothered. But what I did was, opposed to allowing this situation to dictate where I'm going to go in life, I started writing a book. And the name of the book is The Issue of Blood, My Journey.
Oh.
And
okay.
I'm just breaking it down. And a lot of times, what a lot of people don't realize, and this has nothing to do whether you're incarcerated or not, there are so many gifts inside of you. You can do, once you free your mind, you can do it. I just recently read the book by, don't tell me, Albert Woodfox. He was part of that Angola 3. This was a guy who spent like over 40 some odd years in solitary confinement in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine, the only space you live in is the size of a parking space for 40 some odd years. I can't even imagine it. But the one thing that I liked about the book that I came away with was that he made up in his mind that even though this is where you're going to keep me, I will not hate you. I will not give you the satisfaction of holding a grudge and hating you. This is my lot in life, and this is what I'm going to deal with. And so I've just learned that whatever is going on, you can deal with it. It's bad, yeah, it's bad, but if you couldn't deal with it, you wouldn't be in it. So a lot of people who are incarcerated, they really don't understand the power of the mind and what they can do. They don't understand it. And it's so important. Anybody that goes to a penitentiary, federal, state, county, or what have you, when you go and you're talking to these people, it is so important for you to be positive. It is to pour life into their dead situation, because once you break it and you begin to break that mold and break the encasement of the prison in their mind, when they come out, they will be able to function much highly and more successful than the person who didn't have it. So my whole thing with advocacy is I let them know, if you're not going to be a help to these people when you're going to visit them, don't go, because you're doing them
right.
Don't go.
Yeah.
Please don't go.
Don't go and remind them everything they're missing out on.
Exactly.
That doesn't do them any good.
Exactly. So, but y'all have no idea. This is just so good because I got stuff stirring up in my little brain right now.
Well, Linda, I want to share with you my personal mantra that I've had probably over 30 years now. I'm in my mid-50s now.
Okay, and, I still got you beat, but go ahead.
But I've had some real low points in my life, but what I always tell myself, and I share this with other people, is, and I say, I can handle anything when I know it's not forever.
Exactly.
Whether it's something I got to deal with for an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever, it's not forever.
It's not.
Figure out a way to deal with it, to cope with it, to get past it, to endure it until it's done and over or whatever. I can handle anything when I know it's not forever.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to let it get me down. I'm not going to let it get the better of me. I'm just going to figure it out and do it. So that just kind of reminded me of what you were saying, that it's not, those people that are incarcerated, that's their life at that moment, but it's not going to be their life forever. And they need to have the mindset of doing something productive while they're in there that's going to help them when they get out, which sounds like exactly what Kardell did.
Yeah, you have to break, like you said, you have to break that, you got to make that mental shift. You got to break them shackles off you mentally. And a lot of times it's being exposed to something new. It's something different than what you normally being exposed to, whether it's through conversation. And like you said, don't come up there reminding me of what's going on out there or what I did. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Show me a vision or help me paint a vision of what I can really be and what I can do. Right. I mean, one thing that really helped me was one morning I just woke up and just like, man, I'm greater than this situation that I'm in. I'm greater than this. So what am I going to do about it? And like I said, once I started reading different type of books, started educating myself, I had the right attitude and started drawing up my vision, I started seeing a whole new different world. Like I just started seeing a whole new different way of thinking, whole new different life. And it was just, that's what it was. And so when I got out, I started surrounding myself with what I vision, old friends and everything else, people I hustle on the block with, all that stuff. Like I don't see them around because I move. I knew I was going to have to move. I knew I was going to have to get away. And you know what I'm saying? Along with me moving was going to be new opportunities and different circles that was different, way different from the circles that I was in. But that all started with me making a mental shift. Like, this got to happen. Like, I'm greater than this situation. I'm greater than waking up every day, sitting inside of a closet, being told when I can do this, when I can do that, all this other stuff that's going on. Like, I'm greater than the situation. But since you are greater than the situation, what you going to do about it?
You know what? One of the things that I have found since I have been on, because I'm part of several of the prison reform groups on Facebook, I am always amazed that when someone posts something about a loved one and they don't know what to do and how can I help them, this, that, and the other. So there was a young lady on day before yesterday, and she was, the same spiel about a loved one, and they don't know if he has COVID-19 or what have you, but he has the symptoms, and one thing led to another. So they ended up calling, this was in Alabama, they ended up calling the warden of this particular prison, and in retaliation, the warden transferred this man in the middle of a pandemic to another prison. So the young lady was at her wit's end. So I told her, I said, inbox me. All
Right.
I need is the name of the prison where he is, and I will have all of the information. When I got finished, I sent her the executive staff at the Alabama DOC. I was like, you want their home address, their personal cell phone numbers, and their personal email address. I sent her all of this stuff. I was like, this is who you need to contact. This is what you need to do. And and she was just astonished. But what I'm finding that so many family members, I think one of the reasons that they do have this kind of like doom and gloom is because they become overwhelmed and they don't know. But I was telling someone, I was like, look, if you got a family member that's coming up on parole, you have a right. You can request a meeting with the parole board before the parole board even talks to them, to the inmate.
Right.
And you
Exactly.
can speak up on their behalf. And they were like, I can't. Yeah, you can. You need to find out if their parole is coming up in July, you need to be calling them in January, no later than February, to get an appointment with a parole board member and have a conversation. Bring some people, get the petition, and fight for this loved one. So it's amazing to know how many family members they really don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I think
they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Right.
They don't know what they don't.
I think that because they just I think they're just stuck in the stage of basic relationship of their people being incarcerated. Just okay, you call, we write letters, send pictures about what's going on and how you doing, but we don't really get into the depths of everything that comes along with the prison.
Yeah.
In Missouri, your family can actually, a certain number of people can actually go to your parole hearing, show up at your parole hearing and sit in the parole hearing. Like my little brother, when he was incarcerated, my mom and my stepdad, they went to his parole hearing. They got to sit in. The guy that had a job lined up for him when he got released, he actually got to come to. I think get 3 people that comes in there and get to sit in and speak on your behalf. So in Missouri, they can actually come. Not only that, they did meet with the people prior to, like a month or 2 prior to the parole hearing. So the people were already familiar with my mother, my stepdad. And so now when they showed up, and it shows the parole board that you have a support system as well.
And that will help you be successful in
that. Yeah, that will help you be successful. And they, and because, I mean, if you go to a parole hearing and, they ain't getting no letters from nobody ain't talk to them, and you're in there by yourself, I'm sorry to tell you, just don't look good. It's like you might burn a lot of bridges. So they, most likely, they might be like, well, if don't nobody really mess with them, I don't think we should be letting them out of here. I mean, that's just the honest truth.
Right.
So, that is important. But I think as family members, you have to break away from the normal routine and start really engaging on not just what's going on with the person that incarcerated, but what's going on in that state, in their prisons, and their policies and everything else. So when something do occur, you already understand the policy, the procedures, the rights, the privileges, and then you know how to go about addressing the situation. But if you only just focus on the regular routine, writing letters, how you doing, what's the name, got arrested, and this is what's going on out here, and and you're not focusing on nothing else, then you really not an asset to the person that's incarcerated. Because if something goes on, like a COVID-19, you don't know how to address certain situations or even know who to get in touch with or in contact with. And so that's not good.
Yeah. And then the family or their loved one on the outside, if they don't even know where to start, it's such an overwhelming thought to, I don't know who to call, I don't know what to do, those kinds of things. And then they get this sense of helplessness, which then leads to hopelessness,
Mm-hmm.
And then that causes their own lives to be affected by that, because they feel like they've let their loved one down that's inside, because there's nothing they can do for them on the outside. It's just a vicious circle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
you wouldn't believe where I am right now.
Where are you at?
Okay, don't laugh. I'm at the regional jail picking up my daughter from work.
Oh.
Yeah, she's
yeah.
she manages the kitchen here, so she works with the inmates, and for whatever strange reason, they just all think she is the greatest thing since sliced cheese.
Well, I suspect, Linda, that it's because she was raised by a woman that has taught her not only some street smarts, but some human compassion. And
she does.
I'm sure that the inmates there sense that in her and appreciate that in her. And
the fact that she cooks. She cooks really good food for them too.
Yeah, they like that good. They like that good food too, man. Yeah. They got that good food. They probably. She better not miss a day. Hey, what name it in today? Oh no, man. They probably know the difference.
Vacation. They want her.
Yeah, they know the difference if she take a vacation if she there or not.
Oh yeah. She does a good job, you know. And then her staff that she manages. Well, let's just say she's not exactly well liked, because she don't play when it comes to that kitchen. She's like, I don't care if they're inmates or not. My kitchen better be clean.
Yeah.
Right. True indeed.
Yeah.
So that's good.
But this has been really enlightening. Yeah. I mean, I've learned a lot of information, and I want to talk with you later. Actually, I'm gonna give you all both my cell phone number, because I would like to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and then you can just send me a text, because right now, you know, like I said, I'm driving. But my number is it's 800-307-1573.
All right.
Because I would definitely like to collaborate with you. Because, you know, one of the things that came to mind as we were talking was, it would be really cool if we can put together like an online, a Zoom meeting specifically for for families who have individuals that are incarcerated, to let them know about some of the things that they can do so that they can better serve their families, you know, because if they don't know, they just don't know.
Yeah.
They just
be a better support system to help them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, we most definitely can do that. I'm willing to be involved and play my part. I have no problem with that at all. I'm putting my number in, and I'm
in Missouri, who I want to connect you with, because he's working with young boys.
Okay.
So, and you know, I was just talking to him, so I definitely want to hook you up with him, connect you with him.
Oh, Linda, you're in Alabama? Is that what?
Oh, no, I'm in Northern Virginia.
Oh, Virginia. Okay.
I'm in Northern Virginia. But I talk to people everywhere. I'm in Northern Virginia, and I'm working on a contract now with the Department of Homeland Security. So yeah, I have a lot of inside intel.
Good.
Okay. So yeah, I just sent you a text.
Okay, I got it.
We could talk about the doing a Zoom for having a Zoom for the families of people incarcerated, and we can go from there. This Zoom here is just going to be on Thursday nights. Once we start going, more people started getting involved.
Oh yeah,
I had a lot of people hit me up to get it started, but I really appreciate y'all tuning in, coming in, sharing your stories, sharing your thoughts and your ideas. I learned a lot. Pointed interruptions, soft skills. I'm going to be utilizing a lot of them. So I really appreciate you all.
You're welcome.
Then next week it'll be the same time.
Okay.
Same Zoom, same password. It'll never change.
All righty.
And I guess since us three are the first three people here this week, we'll be we'll be the kind of like the administration of the of the calls.
There we go.
Of the calls, of the calls from here on out. But once again, like
we're the OGs right here.
Yeah, we the OGs. So I really appreciate it. Next week, same time, we'll be here.
All righty.
And
y'all have a good one.
I'll talk to y'all later. You too.
Okay, have a good one. Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.